Hey, thanks for joining me. Let's get going on the Spider-Man Revenge of the Sinister 6, Part 5. After this, there's only one more issue to go. This was Erik Larsen's big final story with the Marvel Universe before he ran off to go do Dragon for Image Comics. And if you've seen my other videos on this, I've enjoyed the hell out of this. This is like Erik Larsen in peak form, and he's kind of got peak form in different ways in different series. Like Dragon's one of my favorite comic series ever, and his art takes a big kind of different turn, a little bit more scratchy, not quite as precise as he does here, but I think both work. Both are totally fine. But it's like Erik Larsen, it seemed like, he's given this opportunity to draw this big multi-part issue. So he's going to involve all the characters he wants and just have all the fun in the world. And I feel like it shows. And another thing that's just kind of fascinating to me is how much the artwork looks good with like the way that he draws, his inks, and then the coloring on this, on the paper that it's on. It just all looks fantastic. And it's certainly not this hyper clean, like if you look at this Batman issue that I was looking at recently, this is like a really nice glossy paper with this very advanced computer coloring. And this stuff is on a newsprint. It's nice newsprint, and it's not, I don't think exactly, I don't know that there's any computer coloring. I don't know how these were colored, but it looks great. And I think both work just fine. I mean, slapping down a Jim Lee page next to an Erik Larsen page is going to be very different no matter what. But there's a big visual difference, and both look amazing. So I'm not one of those who feels like all books have to look like this or all books have to look like this. Each can kind of just work out in a perfect balance on its own. But the story up to this point is Dr. Octopus has got adamantium arms with a super powerful power source, so he's kind of invulnerable now. He's a significantly deadlier threat than he's ever been before. And according to Erik Larsen himself, that was one of his major points. Dr. Octopus always looked like a fat, dorky schlub wearing spandex outfits. And he's like, how do you take this fucking asshole seriously? So he amps up Dr. Octopus's villainous ways, puts him in a suit, and tries to make him look regal and serious. And honestly, it worked. In my mind, this is my favorite version of Dr. Octopus. I say that if I've ever read any other stories where he featured prominently in it, I don't remember it. This is the one story that I know. When I think of Octopus in comics, it's this story. And so, to my mind, Erik Larsen did exactly what he set out to do. So, he's got all the other Sinister Six villains together. And then, in the last issue, they opened up a portal to some alternate dimension, went through the portal, slaughtered thousands upon thousands of alien beings, stole a bunch of weapons and technology, got some kind of giant mega flying ship that you see for like 2 panels, and then they come back to Earth and go on a killing spree and kill a bunch of more people. So having looked at this and the next issue, I did a flip through of this, I have to say, artistically, the art is in top-notch, first-rate Erik Larsen. Nothing falters. Story-wise, I feel like it kind of drops off because these bad guys just went and slaughtered hundreds of thousands of people. But it's like never taken seriously. And there's some plot points that just kind of like, I guess that thing just happened, or this weird thing just happened, is kind of odd. But some people could say it's just a comic book. It's just lighthearted fun. I get it, but I don't think you can take some villains and have a villainous group of characters do some really horrible stuff and then just play it off and have like the heroes of the story not really give a shit. Like the consequences of their actions are never addressed. And it just kind of doesn't work for me in terms of the story. It's all worked out story-wise up to this point, but it goes off the rails a little bit. You'll see what I mean. But art-wise, I don't care that it's a splash page with no background. I don't mind one bit. I think that looks awesome. Octopus saying, all right, boys, let's see what you can do. Show me something. And then in terms of like weird story points, he just decides to have some interpersonal drama with the Vulture being just a little bitch about everything. He's like pointing the Uzi at him. He's like, I don't trust you. Why should we trust you? You know, we've just been doing all this horrible shit, but you don't get to boss us around. I'll see you dead. You're going to betray us. And Octopus is like, don't be an idiot. Electro tries to like calm down Vulture, and Vulture's wise to his gig. He's like, you've been sucking up to Octopus a lot. Like, what's going on? You two are in cahoots. I don't trust you. And Electro's like, you're being paranoid, but he's thinking to himself, he's on to me, because that's exactly what's going on. And then while they're down here having this, like, this is a funny moment to me. They're down here talking, you know, Mysterio saying, stop it, you two. We gain nothing from this. You know, you're doing our enemies' work for them. While they're down there doing that, Hobgoblin's just up here flying around shooting guns. Because he's just an insane dummy. Just flying around shooting. And, like, that makes me giggle. Meanwhile, Spider-Man, who just got his ass kicked for like a second time, and in that last issue, he had the big robotic arm thing on because his arm was broken and it was healing it. Now he just wakes up. He's like, and you hear a voice, and it doesn't, I mean, you never see Mary Jane, but it was her, right? It has to be her. Why we don't get to see her, Erik Larsen's got a specific reason. So he just basically explains everything that's been happening in the comic to her, and therefore explaining it to us. I've got this robotic arm on because it's healing. The Sinister Six have done all this shit. They swiped a bunch of weapons and wiped out a mess of civilians. See? Right there. But he's like, I'm just going to go back to bed. And then he's like, what are you doing? She should be in the corner playing with herself. She's not, though. And then we go back to the interpersonal drama of the Sinister Six. I gotta say, I always thought that this panel with Vulture was really badass. Vulture sucks as a character. I mean, he's like a guy that's like 600 years old, and he's wearing this scrawny ass little green whatever spandexy stuff with his little weird muscles and his bald head, and he's got feathers and he can fly. Like, he's like a classic design. You can't really change it, but it doesn't work for me. But I like that shot. He looks insane. I like the way he's kind of bent over and screaming at Octopus. The inking on the background with the fire that's burning. It works. Mysterio's trying to tell Vulture to calm the fuck down. And so Erik Larsen is giving each character some kind of like inner thoughts and characterization to show that they each have their own kind of like thoughts and goals. And, you know, Mysterio is like, he's suspicious. He's right to be suspicious. Ock has betrayed us before, but they underestimate me, and soon I'll just show them how powerful I am, because Mysterio's got to be the hero of his own story, like all these villains do. You know, it's rough, sketchy art, and Erik Larsen's like rendering technique on the bowl on the head of Mysterio. It's the one time I'm going to take some points away from him. I don't know what the fuck he's doing with these little hash marks side to side. He does it there and he does it there. Like, it reads, but it looks dumb. Like, there's some better ways to render, like, reflective surfaces, and apparently he didn't want to do it. Anyway, back with Peter Parker. We just go back and forth between them. He's still got his robotic arm, but she's like, because he said, what are you doing? She's sewing up his costume that was ripped so he doesn't have to put on the black costume, because that shit scares her. And that was set up in the previous issues with McFarlane when the last storyline he did. No, that was the X-Force one. But the one where he ran into Morbius, Spider-Man had to wear the black outfit, and she fucking hates it because Venom terrorized her. So to kind of continue with that storyline, she's like, this is your last red and, you know, blue Spider-Man costume. I don't want you wearing the black one, so I'm sewing it up for you. He's like, oh, well, thank you. That's really awesome. Because I guess when he came home, it literally says he slipped on a roller skate and fell down and hit his head. So while she's sewing up the outfit, he's like, don't make the eyes too small. She's like, how do you expect anybody to take you seriously? He's like, whatever, I like having the big eyes, and they're easier to see out of. And he's like, and the big red spider goes on the back. She's like, I know, I know. So there's kind of like a cute moment between them. You know, the character build-up of the relationship between Peter and Mary Jane. I love it. Hey, Peter, by the way, the Sinister Six is out there, and by your own description, just slaughtered a bunch of civilians. Maybe you should get the fuck up and go call somebody and go kick some ass. There's a bunch of murderers out there. That's what I was talking about. With like, I'm reading the story. I'm like, he talks about the danger of the Sinister Six, and they kill people. They've just killed a bunch of people. And he's like, ugh, I'm in bed. I'm going to go get a shower first and maybe a quick bite to eat. Going back to awesome Erik Larsen art, this shot of the Hobgoblin, his face and his hand up here, love it. And he's just having this insane rant. He's like, the Almighty speaks to me and blah, 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 and eternal damnation, blah, 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 and blowing away test robots. And I like the characterization here. Electro's like, that Hobgoblin guy, he's nuts. And Octopus says, yes, but malleable, we can use him. Though simple little dialogue, I appreciate the fact that one of them's kind of scared of the Hobgoblin. He's like, he's insane. And Octopus is like, yeah, he is, but I can manipulate him. He's useful, so it's cool. I'm like, oh, all right. So I guess they need to get ready. All right, we got to go do a thing. They're talking about their new partner, the one from the other dimension. We got to keep him in mind. We got to, you know, we got that whole thing we're going to introduce later. Back with Peter and Mary Jane. I do remember this conversation. Erik Larsen's had several conversations between Peter and Mary Jane that I remember distinctly. You know what else I distinctly remember? Is this panel of Mary Jane where Erik Larsen went out of his way to show her titty dangling freely without a bra. I mean, that is a very specific, intentional, artistic choice that is rooted in realism. And I'm looking. Anyway, but the conversation that they're having is like they're playing music, and he's like, what is that fucking circular saw cutting through sheet metal music you're listening to? She's like, that's Guns N' Roses. And so they have a conversation back and forth about what bands each one of them like. And they mention a bunch of people: Elvis Costello, Elton John, Nick Lowe, Dave Edmunds. And so she's like, what about Hammer or Extreme or Prince or INXS? He's like, what about Fine Young Cannibals? Blah, 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 blah. But the conversation about music that each one of them like, and they kind of don't like each other's music, I'm like, that's good characterization. Excuse me. Because that's real. But then, oh, by the way, if you remember the plot point, Mary Jane, she's an aspiring actress, and she was going to go get a part in a Schwarzenegger movie, but she has to show her titties. And they are not, Peter's not cool with that. He kind of doesn't want her to do it. But she says, oh, that reminds me, by the way, the director of the Schwarzenegger movie called I Got the Part. So he stops. Back to the bad guy. So again, it's just flipping back and forth, page after page. So obviously Erik Larsen's doing this intentional thing of one page each, basically, of story for each character or group of characters. And it works. You know, you're jumping back and forth, getting a lot of story. So back with the Sinister Six. They're all armored up. They all got their guns and shit. They're ready to go. And as happened in, I think it was the last issue, Sandman, who was supposed to be part of the group, and he got betrayed, and so Octopus used some kind of gun that turns sand into glass. So they shot Sandman, who's, you know, in that pose but frozen in place as a glass statue. And they're like, well, we're going to take off. What are we going to do about our old partner, Sandman, the living statue? And so Octopus says, the living glass statue? Boom, he shatters him and says, let's go. The implication is that they just killed him. Now, these are comics, and these are superheroes with unbelievable, ridiculous bullshit powers, so, you know, probably not. But I was like, oh, there you go. Back to Peter and MJ. He's like, you got the part? She's like, yes. Did you take it? Yes. He's like, I can't believe you took the part. She's like, why not? I said I was going to. So Peter just goes on to be like, look, you'll be doing nude scenes. Aunt May will have a heart attack, so will your Aunt Anna. He's like, I support you, babe, but isn't there something better you can do? And she's like, it's just a movie, Peter. It's not the end of the world. So Peter's freaking out. Like, think of everybody that we know that's going to see your titties and maybe more. Everybody. Flash, Harry, J. Jonah Jameson, I don't want them to see you naked. And so she's like, if this is your idea of support, it's a darn good thing you're not it's a darn good thing that you're a news photographer and not a brassiere manufacturer. All right, Eric, that line doesn't hit as hard as maybe you thought it was, because he wants to offer support. Well, since it's a page turn, we got to go back to another character. So we get Solo. I talked about this guy. He showed up in the earlier comics. Before this issue, or this storyline, never heard of Solo. No idea who he was. Never seen him before. Never seen him since. So who is he? Why is he here? Why is he in a tub of his own feces? But he gets out. He's got scars, and he gets a gun, and he's ready to go kill bad guys and bring back justice. I'm like, okay, thanks, Solo. Just take a shower and get the fucking shit that you're sitting in off you. Back with Peter and MJ. He's got his suit on, and apparently his birthday's coming up. That's important. So meanwhile, there's a news report. They're like, hey, there's some kind of violent thing going on. So we're going to go live on scene to a midget in a bikini. He's like, thanks, Tom. The Sinister Six is blowing up a bunch of shit and blah, blah, blah. The police have... So Peter's like, oh, yikes, they're back. Peter, they never went anywhere, you dumbass. These violent murderers are still out there while you're fucking fighting over with your wife about her showing her titties in a movie. So he's like, oh, I like that they at least addressed this for once. Peter's like, I'm going to try and call for help. The Fantastic Four, maybe they're home. Nope, they're not. He tried the Avengers. The Avengers are not around. So no one's there to help, but at least he tried to call, which he should. It's a Spider-Man comic, but you have to address the fact that there's tons of other heroes in this city, and you can call somebody. So anyway, he's like, well, with this big of a dangerous threat going on, the Fantastic Four and the Avengers are probably already there. You would think so, because they actually give a shit about the violence and destruction that's going on, Peter, you shithead. So anyway, he takes off. So back in the rubble of previous battle that happened, oh yeah, Deathlock was there. There was a giant explosion or something, and he kind of vanished, and he's here. His body's doing internal repairs, and he has a little internal conversation with himself. If you know the character, he's a human brain, Michael Collins, put inside this body, and he can talk with the onboard computer of this android cyborg body. And the computer's saying, we got electrocuted by Electro, so self-repair routines in progress, approximately 50 minutes until motor functions are restored. So Deathlock, he's on the scene. He can't move yet, but he will. Deathlock, I like this character. I always enjoyed him. I like him a lot. Oh shit, there we go. Double page spread of these psychopathic murderers. Now they're fighting Hydra. So they're villains fighting villains. So I'm less concerned about the slaughter of human beings when they're all villains, but still. Pretty exciting shot. I mean, I get the feeling that Erik Larsen doesn't give two flying fucks about the Hobgoblin, but he sure likes drawing him. And I don't know why this shouldn't matter from a compositional kind of standpoint. I thought it was kind of weird. Goblin's left arm up here and his gun and the blast from that going just totally perpendicular to the top of the page, across the top like that. It stood out to me as like weird. It shouldn't matter. I don't know that anyone else gave a shit. But yeah, the Sinister Six, they're murdering a bunch of Hydra agents. Good for them. Thin the herd, a bunch of bad guys. Who fucking cares? Oh, I've said this before, that plot convenience equals comic suck. Spider-Man just shows up to go take on the bad guys, and he's like, oh shit, I was hoping I could have some help, and then Hulk and Ghost Rider and Sleepwalker are just there. They're just there. Now, Hulk had shown up before, and Ghost Rider was in the first issue, so they're around, but they're just there. So, again, it doesn't matter, really, but there's a little bit of, like, they're just there, and Spider-Man's like, oh, thank God you're here. Let's go fight some bad guys. Spider-Man makes a reference to, God, if Wolverine were here, this would be a reunion of the new Fantastic Four with Ghost Rider and Hulk. That would have been awesome. But I appreciate that Erik Larsen resisted having Wolverine in this. I would have actually thought it would have been awesome, but I do not understand why he wanted Sleepwalker. I wonder if he was directed to put Sleepwalker in there because they were pushing that character, and for some reason, for like 5 minutes, everyone thought Sleepwalker was fucking awesome. I never did. He's like a being from another dimension, physically bonded to some human guy, and he can only manifest in the real world when the human guy goes to sleep. So that's when he, Sleepwalker, get it, can come into the real world and fight crime and, you know, bring justice to the world. But guess what? If the guy who's asleep, like, farts and it wakes him up, poof, he's gone. It's the most useless kind of superheroic character trait ever. But anyway, they're like, hey, let's go kick some ass. You know, Ghost Rider's like, innocent blood has been spilled. The guilty must be punished. And again, artistically, love everything. Love the pose on Spider-Man, on the Hulk. Everything looks awesome. The coloring looks so good. It's just so good. But the story's a little like, all right, they're just there. So punch through a wall. Yep, there's the Sinister Six. So in comes, that's a pretty awesome shot of Spider-Man. I love the hyper lighting on the body of Spider-Man there. Ghost Rider's kind of okay. Sleepwalker's kind of okay. Hulk, that's kind of an awesome shot. I'm digging it. Oh my God, the dialogue. They're like, it's the Hulk again. And Spider-Man says, but wait, there's more. Now, how much would you pay? And Hulk says, hey, don't touch that dial. Okay. Okay. So Octopus starts flinging his arms around. I have a problem with Ghost Rider being just another hero, because in my mind he's like, his powers, like he's a demon from hell, right? He's the spirit of vengeance. He can't feel pain. He shouldn't feel pain. He can't be killed. He should be an incredibly powerful character, and in his own book he is. But here, he's just another guy that gets punched around. That's something that I kind of... I mean, I'm not saying that this one shot of Octopus flinging up Ghost Rider, like, that's completely plausible, but I'm just kind of speaking out loud of kind of what keeps happening to him. Yeah, Sleepwalker goes jumping around. I guess he could shoot beams from his eyes or something like that. So Electro zaps him. That's a good shot of Sleepwalker getting knocked back. Awesome shot of Hulk coming along to take on Octopus. Octopus has got some giant fucking cannon. I like this. This is kind of funny. He just drops his giant gun down. Boom! Shoots the Hulk. That's a much more, or, you know, it's a less insulting way to certain writers to have Octopus take care of the Hulk rather than the physical fight that they got into that Peter David absolutely lost his mind over. At least, you know, having a giant gun shoot down at least knocks him away. You know it's not going to hurt the Hulk. But, all right, Spider-Man, he's shooting his web jizz from his wrist to get something. Who cares? He's got to have his webs out. So it's just fighting it going on everywhere. It's lots of action. Weird panel layouts. And I say weird, not having a problem with it, but there's like, look at the panel designs with like the panels that go off the page up here. Little tiny skinny panel there, and then like a big blocky one there. It's weird, it's unnecessarily strange, but it's fine. I dig it. Art's great. God, I love the coloring on this. It just works so well. Ghost Rider's going to take on Goblin, punching him in the face. Hey, there's a kind of reunion of the fight between these two that Spider-Man did in the second storyline, where Ghost Rider and Hobgoblin, you know, they're bringing it back. Robot creature punches Ghost Rider away. Here we go. Yeah, Sleepwalker and Hulk, they're like charging. They're like, hey, we got to go kick some ass. And then Sleepwalker just vanishes because the human kid, Rick Sheridan, he woke up. His fucking barking dog has to go take a shit, and so he's barking and woke up the human. So Sleepwalker's gone. Fucking, who cares, right? So again, I wondered, like, did Marvel say, hey, Sleepwalker's he's doing awesome. You put him in your book. So that's dumb. Robotic minion blows off the robotic arm that Spider-Man had been pimping around with, and he's like, shit, that was actually really useful because it was bulletproof, but, you know, it did its job. That's awesome. So Octopus is like, hey, fuck all of you and everyone in your houses. All of you can go fuck off. He gets out a button and pushes it, and a giant monster arm comes smashing down. And I swear I've seen this panel in Savage Dragon more than once. Some scaly, ripply lizard arm from some giant smashes down, crushing Hulk and Ghost Rider. And what do we get? Some giant monster called Gog. He says, allow me to introduce you to our 6th member, an old friend of our dear departed partner, Kraven the Hunter. I give you Gog. And so Spider-Man's just hanging there by himself with, again, Hulk and Ghost Rider knocked out there. Sleepwalker's gone, and Spider-Man's like, I'll tell you what, let's call it a draw. So, all right, the giant monster. Okay. Apparently this creature has shown up before in something, but he's been scaled up. Never heard of him. Okay, you know what? That was actually fun. So, again, I had a lot of fun with this. Outside of the story points that seem, you know, it's that phrase I use, plot convenience equals comic suck. It's a little bit too convenient. And again, Erik Larsen wants to keep it lighthearted. I appreciate that. I like the lighthearted nature. But again, when you have villains slaughtering people by the thousands, and you're like hanging out at home, flirting with your wife, knowing that they're out there right now, and you're not, it's just, it just kind of clashes in my head. Maybe I'm being too dramatic. But anyway, I'm having a lot of fun with this. And since there's only one more issue to do, I'm going to record on a separate video just the conclusion to this, just to spread them out. But I had a lot of fun with this. Spider-Man, you know, issue 22, part 5, Revenge of the Sinister Six. It's good times. So we'll see you on part 6 and the wrap up to everything. So that's all I got. Thanks for watching. Bye.